Today on episode 10 of the Play Guitar podcast, I talk about steps to take to avoid frustration that could be ahead of you on the guitar. Also, we have some listener feedback and another installment of Creating the Band, so stay tuned. Welcome to episode 10 of the Play Guitar podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that'll help you become the guitarist you always wanted to be. On today's episode, titled Knowing Where You're Headed Means Everything on Guitar, I go over the most common problems that you'll deal with when learning the guitar. If you know what's coming, you can avoid a ton of frustration. This is very timely for me because I'm at the end of my winter quarter for my small group classes. We just had our winter concert and it was a lot of fun. I get a fun venue. I hire a rhythm section. I get all the different groups to play their songs with the band. And it's all for a big room of people. It was awesome. It was a great time to celebrate the end of the winter quarter. And having ended that last quarter, I'm starting new now. I'm starting the spring quarter today. I've got a bunch of new, nervous and excited students who are ready to head down the path that we all have gone, the beginner guitarist. So I have beginner guitarist stuff on my mind right now, and I'm planning something fun. Next week on the show, it's going to be Beginner Week on the podcast. I'm going to spend some time helping out people that are just starting on guitar. But I need something from you. I need your help. I don't want this to be the same old beginner stuff that you see everywhere. I want it to be different, something that can be looked back at and that would be a great resource to point new players to. But to do that, I need you to be involved. I think together we can build the best beginner guide available right here on the podcast. So I need to know, what advice would you give an absolute beginner? Where would you send them to start? If somebody came to you and said, I want to learn guitar, what do I do? Would you send them to YouTube, have them buy DVDs, books, sign up with a teacher? What would you do? What can you tell them to expect as well? What are the things that they're going to go through? What are the struggles that you went through when you were learning guitar? And how would you help somebody start? I've been planning next week's episode for a long time, and I'm really excited about it, but I want it to be better. I value your opinion. I'm very interested in the general topic of learning guitar online. And I've spoke about this before. I want to find ways to make it better. It should be better now. I've been helping a lot of frustrated guitar players that get back on track for a long time now. And there's just something, in my opinion, something missing about learning guitar online. I definitely have my opinions about this, and I'm going to share them with you next week. But with you and me, let's help these people who are just getting started down this awesome path of guitar mastery that we're all on. Save them from some of the headaches and frustrations that we've gone through. So send me in your ideas about experiences with starting the guitar, and I'll include them with my ideas, and I think we'll be able to help a lot of people out. You can email those to me at feedback@playguitarpodcast.com or get them to me on Twitter. It's at playguitarpdcst. But for today, the focus is not just on beginners. Today, I'm going to tackle frustration on the guitar. Beginners definitely don't corner the market on frustration. Getting better on the guitar is not easy. If it was, we'd have people strumming everywhere. So today, I will go through some things to think about, things that would save you a lot of headaches down the road. Also, I've got some really big news to tell you, but I can't tell you yet. I'm not sure I can tell you. Something super exciting has happened recently that directly affects this podcast, and I want to tell you, but I want to make sure that it's okay to let the cat out of the bag before I do. So anyway, just to let you know, great things are happening here, and as soon as I can, I've got some big news to let you know. It's very exciting. So I'm glad you're here, and let's go ahead and get started with the show today. knowing where you're headed means everything on the guitar. Have you seen this guy? I saw him on Facebook, I think. It's a video that they're passing around Facebook. And I'm not going to link to it because if there's kids listening, I don't want you to watch this video. But he's trying to learn, this is this guy. He's trying to learn this calm, nice little song and sing along with it. And everything's going along fine. He makes one little mistake and then it is on. It's like his blood pressure goes through the roof. He shakes, he swears, he's slamming his hands, he kicks his guitar. He's got another guitar on the stand. He kicks that across the room and he calms down and he tries again. And it's really funny because it's not because he's kicking his guitar. It's funny because I have felt that before. I didn't go that far to show it like this guy does, but I felt that before. Sometimes you just can't believe the things you have to go through just to play this thing. It's really funny. It's cracking me up. But so here we are. We're at episode 10, and I'm getting some great feedback. But I've been surprised from what I'm hearing. I'm getting a lot of feedback about what you would think is called the coaching aspect, the putting us in the right frame of mind to move forward on the guitar. I thought that the other stuff, do this, then put your finger here, play this scale over this chord, the regular kind of teaching stuff would be the most discussed things. And they are, but not by the margin that I would have thought. Learning the guitar is very huge right now. It's a lot like being a kid in the candy store. There are so many songs to learn, so many videos that will teach you whatever it is you want to learn. It's overwhelming and it's frustrating. A lot of times you may not have the skills you need to attempt a certain song or play a lick that you want to play, but you just don't know that ahead of time. And until you've spent tons of time trying it, it's too late. You're already stuck and you're discouraged. Now, there are some people that are the type of person that thrive in this kind of environment. Just throw all this information at them and they just soak it up like a sponge. And for that small percentage of people, they're loving life right now. They're getting everything they want. But from my experience, the majority, the rest of us are having a different experience. It's still a tough road to travel. I think that if we knew what was ahead of us, and that's why having a teacher is so effective. They can see where you're going and can warn you of what you're going to go through ahead of time. And they'll either steer you away from some bad moves or help you get through them. But if we knew what was ahead of us, it wouldn't be such a tough time. If we could see the things that are potential obstacles in our path, learning the guitar would be what it's supposed to be, which is fun. That's right, fun. This thing that we're playing is supposed to be fun. Tell that to the guy kicking his guitar around on the video. And our desires to be incredible on this thing put so much pressure on ourselves. We live in an environment that encourages us to become our own worst enemy. It's not simply enough to spend an enjoyable amount of time with the guitar. We all feel like we need to be progressing at an ever increasing rate. And when that doesn't happen the way we'd like, it feels bad. So I say this a lot. I say, how do you feel when studying the guitar and how you feel when studying the guitar and how you actually are progressing are two very different things. Do you remember when you made a big, your first big accomplishment on the guitar? How did you feel? You felt great, obviously. But what happened in the weeks and months after that, for a lot of players, that feeling is quick to wear off. You're still practicing like you did, but you aren't having the big wins like you did before. It feels like you went up a step and then went no further. You leveled off. But then one day somebody pays you a compliment. They say something nice about your playing. Boom. You jump to the next level. You feel great again. And then the process starts all over again. And that's how it feels. I've heard it from a lot of guitar students. Even though it feels like you're not getting any farther, that's not how it actually is. The time that you spend on guitar working on scales, chords, techniques, songs, the daily grind of stuff, that time you spend is bringing you closer to mastery on the guitar. It doesn't feel like it, but it is. I can see improvement in a student when they can't. So how do we fix this? How do we navigate our way to getting great on the guitar while still staying focused avoiding pitfalls, and having fun when you have all this information at your fingertips and nobody to guide you. How can I help you avoid your pitfalls when I don't know where you are on your journey with the guitar? And how can I help lots of people at the same time where it would be impossible to help them all one-on-one? When you start to help lots of different guitar players who like lots of different styles of music and have lots of different goals with the guitar, some things start to come into focus. You start to see some trends. Although everyone's problems are a little different, you can see that most are going through some similar problems over and over. For me, I want to take these problems into account ahead of time. Realize that you're going to go through them before I prepare the lesson for you online. I make that content I put out to you structured in a way that informs you, what could be a potential stumbling block and what we're going to do to avoid that. So I'm going to go through today some of the most common problems guitar players have. And this is not just beginners, and what you can do to avoid them. The first I already touched on, that is, realize you're not always going to feel like you're getting better all the time. But if you consistently put the time in, you are improving. Just even spending the time on an exercise or a song, that's a step forward. Be confident that the time you're putting in will pay off. It will. I've seen it so many times. Students that are ready to quit because they just don't feel like they're getting better. And then boom, something sparks their interest or somebody gives them a compliment and it's full steam ahead. That's important to realize, but it's also important to realize that getting better at the guitar does require some patience, dedication, and focus. Patience, dedication, and focus. Do you have to have these things to play guitar? No, you don't. If you're happy just strumming a few chords, then that's great. But knowing what I know, most of us want to go a lot farther than that with the guitar. To really progress, it takes time. And to make the most out of that time, we need to be prepared for it. It's going to take time to get better. But being patient, dedicating yourself to a schedule, and being focused on the right steps it takes to learn what's at hand will dramatically speed up the whole process. It's like being a horse with those blinders on. Have you seen that? A horse that's like pulling a buggy and they have these little black shields that keep the horse from looking left or right. They keep the horse from being distracted. It makes it easy to pull the buggy directly where it needs to go in a quick time. The next thing I would recommend is to keep your repertoire of songs up to date. I dealt with this just yesterday. I had a conversation with two of my long-term favorite students. And one said that he didn't know what to do when he got the line that we all get from our family and friends. Oh, you're learning the guitar. Well, play me something. He didn't know what to play. I thought, what are you talking about? We've learned songs over the years and performed them at our concerts. I knew that they had many songs that they could play in that situation. But once we played them at a concert, it seems that that's the last time they played them. You never know when you're going to need to play something. You should periodically work on keeping these songs up. Make a list of all the songs you know and play them from time to time. Don't let them go. Songs are valuable. Even if you just loop a section of the song and work on your improvisation over top of it, it's very helpful. You could also try playing that old song with chords and, putting the chords in different areas or different chord voicings, playing bar chords instead of the open position chords. You could be working on new things on these songs all the time while still keeping up your repertoire, knowing these songs. The next thing to help you keep on course is to try to keep a daily practice routine. This is important. Back in school, when you knew you had you were going to have a test in about a week, did you always study every night up till that test? Or did you put it off and cram the night before the test, stressfully trying to keep all the information in your head until it was test time? What happened? You may have done really well on the test, but the minute you left school, I'm sure most of what you learned was gone. You dumped it. You fought to keep all that in your short-term memory, but what if you had just studied a bit every day for that week? Just the repeated action of daily study put all that information in your long-term memory, and that's what we want on the guitar. We want to be that guitar player that doesn't have to think about every little chord and every little finger movement. We want to make it look effortless. And because it can be, most of what a well-studied guitarist plays comes from long-term memory. So spending a reasonable time on a repeated basis is so much better for retaining all the things that we're learning. It's much better than these, marathon weekend sessions where you just play guitar for hours and hours and hours. The last two things are tips that are very common that you find online, but they're still very valuable. The first you hear a lot is, don't compare yourself to other players. This isn't a race. Everyone learns at a different pace. The goal is really understanding the guitar and the music you're playing. Don't throw yourself forward before you're confident in what you're studying. We don't need thousands of players that sound like somebody else. Work on yourself at your own pace. If you can be content with your own playing and your progress that you have, that keeps the frustration at bay. And when you keep the frustration away, you actually learn quicker. The other that you hear a lot is make sure that your instrument is not difficult to play. Especially for beginners, they may not even realize that their acoustic guitar is not supposed to have strings an inch away from the fretboard. But even if you're not a beginner and your guitar is difficult to play, do something about it. Take it to someone that knows how to properly adjust a guitar and see if there's anything that can be done. Try lots of different guitars and get familiar with the ones that are comfortable to you. Also, if the strings on your guitar are hard to play, try some lighter gauge strings and have somebody put them on if you don't know how to do it. Be proactive. Don't spend time with an instrument that's no fun to play. It's really a waste of time. It's not worth it. So that's my list of a few things that you can take into consideration before you hit those big stumbling blocks on guitars. This is not just for beginners. Like I said, once a guitar player, once they get set in the way they like to do things, it's tough to change. But a little change could really make the guitar more fun to play. It'd help you avoid a lot of future frustration. This is listener feedback. This is where if you have a comment or a question I can help you with, I'll try my best to help you. To get in touch, you can always email me at feedback@playguitarpodcast.com, or you can use the comments on the show notes page or use the contact form on the site. But the coolest way is to leave a question for the show by my SpeakPipe voicemail. When you go to the main page of Play Guitar Podcast, to the right of the screen, you'll see a button that says Send Voicemail. That will allow you to record a short message for me to use on the show. And you can also get to this voicemail on my contact page. So this week, I got a great email from Barry. And Barry was the guy last week who had the clip that I couldn't play because I wanted to get in touch with him before I did it, make sure I had permission, but I still wanted to answer his question anyway. And we spent some time on that last week, and he was cool with me playing the clip. So I'm going to go ahead and update the old show, last week's show, with his question. And I'll do that probably in a few days when everything settles down a little bit for me. But one thing Barry reminded me to mention to you is that I also do have the podcast up on YouTube each week. It automatically goes up to YouTube. So if you watch YouTube a lot, you can get the podcast there. I've tried really hard to make sure that the show's available in as many places as possible. So the list of places that you can catch the show now, I'm going to go through them right here. It's iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, SoundCloud, although I kind of need to fix that a little bit. Acast, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Podbean, Overcast, Castbox, and you can also always go to www.playguitarpodcast.com. I may be missing some too. They're out in a whole lot of places, but I'm going to set up the page in the future on my website that has all the different places you can download the show. So I just want to say thanks, Barry, for the kind words and the reminder, and I'm going to go ahead and put your clip up on the other show. I also want to thank Hukuiku for a great iTunes review. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I also want to thank Carlos, who got in touch with me, and he's had some kind words about the show, and he says he's interested in fingerstyle guitar. And that's great. I have several ideas about topics on fingerstyle I'm going to bring to you in the future. So, Carl, let's keep an ear out for that. So this week I put a question out on Twitter about what frustrates you about playing guitar the most. And I got some great responses. And I'd like to ask you that too. So get in touch with me at Twitter. It's at PlayGuitarPDCST at Twitter. And here's some. I got some from Darren, Zoe, Duke, and Josh. And I want to thank you for your feedback. And I'm not going to read those here because I'm going to address all of these on either here on some YouTube videos that are coming up shortly. So I'll let you know when I do. I'm also getting some great feedback on the website. That's www.playguitarpodcast.com. If you have any comments or questions directly related to the topic at hand, feel free to leave them on the show notes page. For every episode, you just add the number after the Play Guitar Podcast. So today's show page is www.playguitarpodcast.com/010. That's for episode 10. So this one didn't have a lot of questions, but it's a lot of me thanking everybody. So thanks a lot, and keep the reviews, comments, and questions coming. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Let's get into creating the band. This is where I share with you each week every step it takes to start from scratch. Just an idea in my head all the way through the process to end up with a working band with an album, videos, website, promotional materials, gigs, all that stuff. So now I have all 10 ideas, and it's time to start working on each idea. I need to make some decisions. I need to start working on the forms of the songs. And so I'm going to start with idea 1. And it's been a while since we've heard that one. So let's go ahead and take a listen to that right now. Okay, so that idea, it's basically an A and a B section. The first section of it revolves around the G7 chord, and it has sort of a funk, New Orleans-y funk beat there. So you would think it'd be a blues or a funk song, but I wanted to have the chord structure more like a jazz tune. The groove is funk and blues, but the harmony is more complex. But just starting on the G7, it gives it a familiar sound. But right away after that, it moves to an A minor with an 11th and an A minor 11. And then after that, it goes to an A flat 7 sharp 5. It repeats that again. And then the progression, that section, the A section, ends with a 1, 6, 2, 5 in the key of G. And then it repeats it all over again. So we have 2 A sections. But the second section, the B section, it's got a bass walk down from a C minor 7th chord. And then it has another bass walk down from a D minor 7th chord. And finally, it ends with 2 2-5-1 progressions. I think they're a half step apart as like a turnaround to come back to a variation on the A section. I can tell with those kind of chord changes, there's going to be some challenges to matching a melody and matching some solos to the progression. But it's going to be a lot of fun for me just getting it right. Okay, so I was thinking of making this one an instrumental song. The more I listen to it, the more I play it, I think it's going to have a vocal. So thinking about the form, I'm going to make a new intro to stick in front of what you heard. It's probably going to be an 8-bar intro based on the G7 chord. So that will give it more of that of kind of a funk sound in the beginning, kind of get you listening for that. But then when the vocal starts in on what the part that we just heard, you'll have that a little bit more complex harmony. The form I'm thinking about this is a refrain type form without a clear chorus section. But what'll happen is that the hook or the title of the song will be sung at the end of each verse. I don't know if that's going to work out until I actually hear it, though. But that's what I'm guessing is going to work out pretty good. I will have to come up with one or two more parts for the solo section, and then end on the original A-B section. So I definitely have some strong ideas where I'd like for this song to go. I'm curious to see what actually happens. I think it's a good idea. It definitely needs a lot of work, but hopefully I have a lot more time to work on this week and get some accomplished. At least I have an idea of the direction I want to go. So that's creating the band for this week. We're working on song idea 1, but that is a wrap for today. Thank you for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show on iTunes or your podcast player. Also, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me an iTunes review for the show. If you're interested in online lessons, go on over to playguitaracademy.com and join my early adopter list to get news on the opening of the site and an early adopter discount. Also, follow me on all of my different social media pages. Links to them are at www.playguitarpodcast.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next episode.